right, well, good morning. Thanks for joining us here at Inspire the Spirit. Today we're going to talk about a topic, trusting God. And it's a phrase we hear a lot in our society. In God we trust is on our coins. And trusting God is just, how many times do you hear, trust God? You're in a situation, you're talking to somebody, and the response is just trust God. In John 14:1, it says, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me." And that was Jesus speaking in the red letters, trying to comfort his disciples that no matter what's happening, trust the Father, believe in your hearts, and trust in me. So how do you think about future desired outcomes? There was a guy that shared a message once at an FCA camp, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and he said he had a really busy schedule, but he loved watching his favorite football team where he went to college. But his schedule, he had to record a lot of the games. So here's what he did. He would record the games, and at night, when he finally had time to sit down, he would fast forward to the end of the game to see if his team won. If his team lost, he did not watch the game. If his team won, he would then rewind and go to the kitchen and make all of his snacks and sitting down and spend the next 3 hours watching his team won. Now somebody said, that doesn't seem like a very fun way to watch a sporting event. He said, well, here's what it taught me. No matter how bad things were going in the game, no matter how dire the outcome appeared, I always knew it was going to be okay in the end. And he used that example to teach, as Christians, we should be the same way. We know the ending of the game. We know how the story ends. So we should be approaching our lives in the same manner. No matter how dire the situation, we can still relax and enjoy and do what we're asked to do in life because we know how the game's going to end. As individuals, we often vision how we want God to work for our future, so the outcome turns out like we want it to. But that's not faith. That's called control. It's like saying or praying, God, I want you to work this problem out according to my will and how I foresee it going, versus praying like Jesus taught us, Father, let your will be done. This happens because we all have short memories, right? We forget how God worked things out in the past for us when we were in trouble or in a tough spot or didn't think we were going to make it through, but He always did. But our memories are so short, so in today we struggle to trust God with an unknown future. Short attention spans, instant info, instant gratification. Nobody cares about yesterday's news. We're always moving on. Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 through 6 tells us, trust the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. So Proverbs tells us, trust the Lord with our heart. Don't think through it ourselves. In everything you do, always submit to Him and let Him guide you. And you know what? That's really hard to do because it means we have to relinquish control. But we also understand, who would you rather have in control of your destiny and your outcome? God or your own capabilities? Trusting God is holding on loosely to the things in your life that you really want to hold on tightly to. You want to grip some things so tightly, your health, your children, your family, your loved ones, but to truly trust them with God. He gave them to you, so we have to hold on loosely and realize God's got them as well. The Flying Rendellas were one of the most famous trapeze flying artists in the history of the circus show. And they used to talk about how it would work. And they went before they had nets and stuff, and they would swing and they would get in rhythm. And one person would be the catcher, and the other person is called the flyer. And at the right time, at some point, the flyer had to let go and suspend in the air with their arms extended high. But the flyer had to know this: they could never adjust. They could never reach or grab. They had to fully trust in the catcher, because if they tried to intercede or adjust, it would be complete failure. They had complete trust that the catcher was coming to grab them at all times. And that's how we have to trust God. We have to let go and not trust in our own abilities and wait for God to catch us. To weather storms, we have to have deep roots like an oak tree. What do you see on the news after a large windstorm or tornado or something comes through an area? You see large oak trees leaning on houses or falling over maybe in a golf course, and you see the tree damage. But what you never see is a large oak tree in the wild, in the forest, blown over. And here's why. You see, the oak trees around our houses have been pampered. They've been watered, and they've been fertilized. They've been pruned. But the oak tree in the wild doesn't get that. So the trees around homes that are planted and watered and nurtured, their root systems aren't as deep because they've never been under pressure. They've never been stressed. They've never had a trial or a test. So when the wind comes, the soft, easy soil that they've grown in, they topple. But the oak tree in the wild has had to endure drought, has had to endure harsh winters. And when the nutrients and the fertilizer and the water sprinklers aren't available, their roots have to dig down even deeper. They have much deeper root systems. They've studied this. They can withstand a greater windstorm. We have to be like the wild oak trees. Jesus had to trust his Father when he faced his journey to the cross. He had to fully trust him. Satan's plan to destroy the reign of Jesus was the same plan that God was using to save the world. A lot can get done in 3 days. When you can't see victory right now, remember, because of Jesus, your victory's already been won over all the evil schemes in your life. Our job is to trust and keep moving forward in prayer and spreading the gospel. 1 Peter 5, verse 6, humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. It's a great verse. It's hard to humble ourselves sometimes until we realize how mighty God's hand is. And he's the one that will lift us up. And the key phrase, in due time. That's his time. And why is it in due time? Because if you got everything you asked for, if everything was resolved today, you'd never grow those deep roots. You'd never be tested. You'd never be strong enough to face and handle what God may be calling and preparing you to do in the future. Due time. The waiting time is not a waste of time. God is building the spiritual strength within you for greater things to come. Where in your life right now are you desperate for God to make things right? Do you have the patience to wait and let your spiritual roots grow? Or are you impatient and you're waiting for God, please hurry. I got this health issue. I got this relationship issue. I got this financial issue. Pain and sorrow of this world breaks our hearts. But we can always trust God that he's there working with you. And he's working everything out for his glory and for your personal growth. Now that's hard. That's hard to be patient when your heart's beating, your pulse is racing, you got that sick feeling of despair in your stomach, and you're crying your eyes out over a loss or a heartache. What do? Call your Father. There was a young man that shared a story that he sailed in South England, and they had a sailboat. He went out, and he was sailing one day, and it was a really rough area of the sea, and a gale storm came out of nowhere and capsized his boat. And he was in the cold, frigid Atlantic waters, in a windstorm. So what does he do? He doesn't panic. He's been trained well by his father. He has in his jacket preserver in a waterproof case a cell phone. He pulls his cell phone out, clinging to his ship in the high sea, and he calls his father. His father is 3,500 miles away. His father is in Kuwait, is a high-ranking general in the British Armed Forces. He's on a training mission. The man's floating in the ocean in the Atlantic, and he calls his dad in the desert. Says, hey, I've capsized in a storm in our favorite spot. And the father said, just hang on, and he hangs up the phone. That was it. Just hang on was all he said. 3 words. Just hang on. The boy hung on. Not fearful. Not, why did my dad hang up on me? Because he trusted his father. 10 minutes later, a British Coast Guard helicopter appeared over and plucked him out of the seas. You see, his dad was a high-ranking general. He knew he'd been in the service 60 years, he said. He knew every single person in every military base at every station. He knew exactly where his son was because he said, Dad, I'm where we sail, where we spend time. And he called that Coast Guard unit. He knew that commander right there and said, here's where my son is. Can you go get him? And he made the arrangements. He had the connections. When they got the young man in the helicopter and they were flying back to safety, they called the general again and said, sorry to bother you, sir. Just wanted you to know we got your son and he's safe. He said, thank you, good job. I got to get back to work, and he hung up. Isn't that a great lesson for our lives? Call our Heavenly Father. He knows where you're at. He knows where you spend time with. And guess who has all the connections to line everything up for your good? Just hang on. Just hang on and trust the Father. We are to humble ourselves before His throne and cast our anxiety and cares to Him. 1 Peter 5:7. Cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you. God can't lift an unbowed head. Think about it. When we're full of pride, we walk around with our chins high and our shoulders back and our chest out, and we get stiff-necked. I'll do it myself. If I want it done right, I'll do it myself. If I can't get it on my own, I don't want it, I can do it. God can't help us when your chin is not bowed down in reverence. We are so fixated on our desired outcomes in life that our necks become stiff. And we can't see how God is working around us, aligning things up, because we're so stiff-necked on where we think we're going. But when we bow our heads in humility, we are now in a position for God to lift our chins up. And He will point us in the direction that He knows best. So bow instead of resisting. Bow before God, your head, instead of trying to fix it yourself. Bow when things are getting better. Bow when things are getting worse and falling apart again. What does that look like for you in this season of life, whatever you're facing? The world and social media, the Facebook crowd, they tell us all the time, you do you. You be you, what makes you happy. Be yourself. I tell people, you be who God intended you to be. Your identity does not come with who you associate, what other people say. Your identity is not the things that make you feel good and happy. Your identity only comes from who Jesus Christ says you are. That's your identity. Levi Lusko wrote this the other day, and I thought it was profound and relative to today, what we're talking about. Here's what he wrote. You ever feel like you're running hard but going nowhere? Like you're drowning in self-discovery but starving for purpose? The world keeps whispering, look within. But within is what's breaking. We've been told to chase our truth, but truth that shifts with the seasons will always elude us. We keep pouring passion into things that can't hold us, into dreams too fragile to last, into loves too small to save us. Everything outside of Him, Jesus, fades, even the things you thought were forever. And without hope, we don't just feel lost. We come undone, piece by piece. Purpose isn't found by finding yourself. It's found when you lose yourself in the one who found you first. And I just thought that's profound, that we just need to trust God. He made you for a very specific purpose and placed you in this world at this point in time. Trusting. Romans 8:28. And we know that all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. So in conclusion, God is still writing your story. Quit trying to steal the pen and simply trust the author. Have a blessed day. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.